So hi everyone, welcome to another video by Cracku. This is a live session for the IIM Bangalore UG admissions test. Today we will be discussing grammar and sentence correction. There has been one more video, one more lecture on this before, where we essentially discussed about the sentence structure and the kind of errors that we can encounter that way. In this session today, we will be discussing more about something called the subject verb agreement and something called tenses. Those two things, a lot of questions about, error correction or identify the correct sentence are based on either grammar based on tenses or subject verb agreement. So we'll be covering that in today's class. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, yeah. So if you're here, you already know that IIM Bangalore has launched this new UG program, which has, two degrees. One is BSc Honors in Economics with a minor in Data Science, and another one is BSc Honors in Data Science with a minor in Economics. For eligibility, we have you need to be a class 12th passed candidate, or you should not be more than 20 years of age also. That is also another restriction. And you should have mathematics as a subject in your class 10th, in your class 11th and 12th. You should have at least 60% marks in mathematics. And for the entrance to the exam, you'll need to crack an entrance test, which will be followed by an interview. Okay. Yeah, now let's look into the pattern for the exam. Okay, so we have the test format is essentially 120 minutes. It's a computer-based test with 60 multiple choice questions. So the 60 questions are divided into 15 for English comprehension, 15 for QADI, which is quantitative and data interpretation. That would include all the quant stuff like the math stuff, and data interpretation would include something like charts, tables. You have to essentially identify that. Logical reasoning is for another 15 questions. So we understand this, although they haven't released a very detailed syllabus for the exam yet, but they are expected to release, in the first week of November. Now that is why, before they actually release the, syllabus, we at Cracku have decided to cover up all the basics so that when they release the actual syllabus, we can directly jump into the more harder parts, like the more difficult questions, the more difficult topics, because the syllabus, as they have kind of said, will depend on 10th, 11th and 12th. So which might mean that in mathematics they might cover matrices and determinants. They might have calculus, which they have not given any clarification yet, but we can expect that also. So now we are just covering up all the basics. In case of grammar also, we are just going through the basics, and then based on the syllabus we'll move forward. Anyways, okay, so yeah, so like we said, we are just covering the basics. We had a session on reading comprehensions, we had a session on number systems, we have had a session on time and work and puzzles. You guys can go check that out. They are available for free. In fact, the entire course is actually available for free on YouTube. You guys can check it out. And today's session is on grammar and sentence correction, which is the second part. The first part we dealt more with the structure, like what are the parts of speeches, what is a simple sentence, what is a complex sentence, what are articles, where do you use them. Basically, to frame a sentence, everything you need to know we discussed then. This session we'll focus more on two topics particularly. One is the subject verb agreement, and the second is tenses. We also have sessions on quadratic equation, logarithms and linear equation in the coming weeks, and so yeah, do remember to check them out. Okay, and we have also created a WhatsApp group where we are essentially sharing all the updates, all the important updates that you might be needing to know for this IIMB UG preparation. There we also have, it's essentially a support group. So like when you're filling out the forms, if you have some doubts, we have our mentors there who are like, going to help you out. And also it's always nice to have a peer group, to like have these group of people who, all of you who are like, preparing for this same exam. So that way you guys can, talk amongst yourself, see how your preparations are going. It helps foster that. So they'll put the link in the description and in the chat box. Make sure to like, go join the WhatsApp channel. Okay, now let's begin with the session. Today's session we will be covering, as I have said multiple times, we'll be covering something called the subject verb agreement, we'll be covering something called tenses, and then we'll go for sentence correction. Sentence correction essentially involving subject verb agreement and tenses, that we will be covering today. Okay. So before we begin, what is a subject essentially? Because we are going to start with something called the subject verb agreement, right? So what is this subject thing? So essentially, if you know, whenever we are writing a sentence, we are writing the sentence about something, right? So जिसके बारे में है वो sentence, the person or the thing, whatever it is, whatever it is based on which the sentence is written, that thing is called the subject. So the subject is essentially a person or thing that is being discussed, described, or dealt with in the sentence. That thing is a subject, and the subject is usually a noun or a pronoun. It can't be a verb or something, okay? It has to be a naming word. So a subject is always a noun or a pronoun. If you are confused like what a noun is, about the other parts of speech, you can go check out our previous video where I've discussed nouns, pronouns, and the other parts of speech in detail. Anyways, and the subject is essentially who, what is doing, or what is being done. Like when I write, Ram goes to school. What is this sentence about? Who is this sentence about rather? This sentence is about Ram. The sentence is talking about what Ram is doing. So Ram becomes the subject of the sentence. So essentially whoever the sentence is about, or when I say like honesty is the best policy. What is the sentence about? This sentence is about honesty. Honesty being the best policy, right? So in this sentence, it's not necessary that the subject has to be a living thing. A subject can be a person, it can be a thing, it can also be an idea. Like honesty is not a thing, right? It's an idea. It is an abstract noun. So subject can be anything. And one thing to notice here, what is the action being done? In the first sentence, when I say Ram goes to school, going is the action being done, right? So go, whatever the action is, that is the verb. The verb is essentially the action thing. Honesty is the best policy. Here is the verb. So whatever is the action or the state, that is denoted by verb. In this lecture, we will be discussing what subject and verb agreement is. What is subject verb agreement? Essentially that the subject should agree, or rather the verb should agree with the subject. What does this mean? A subject can be plural, a subject can be singular. So a singular subject will take a singular verb. Similarly, a plural subject will take a plural verb. That is essentially the core idea of subject verb agreement, that a singular subject will always take a singular verb and a plural subject will always take a plural verb. Uske liye, for this we have some rules, because grammar we need to have some rules. Certain words which might seem to be confusing, but what these are and why we will use them. So we will be discussing about all those rules in detail in this video. Okay, so let's start with the rules. The rule one, which is a golden rule, we call it. It's like a singular subject will take a verb that will have an S, ES or IES with it. Like in that sentence, when we wrote Ram goes to school, go is the verb, right? Go is taking an ES along with it. However, if I had written the children is what? The children is plural. Singular means one, plural means more than one. So when I say the children, tabhi it becomes go. The children go to school. So that is essentially the golden rule. That is like the base rule, the starting rule for the subject verb agreement thing. In the example sentences we've written, the dog barks. See, one dog, it barks. They've used an S. Bark is the verb plus S. However, when it's the plural subject, the dogs, it becomes bark. No S, ES or IES. IES is essentially words with end with Y. The Y is replaced with IES. Like जैसे baby, baby का plural becomes babies. Ending with Y, that gets replaced with IES. Anyway, so this is like the first rule which we should know, that whenever we have a singular subject, it takes a S, ES or IES. Whenever it's a plural subject, there is no change in the form of verb. Next, we have something called the be verb. So what is the be verb? Okay, so whenever we are talking about verbs, we have the main verb, right? Which can be something like, the primary verb, like in that sentence, goes, barks, all of that. There can be another thing called the auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary or helping verbs. In helping verbs also, we have two classes. One is called the primaries and the another one is called the modal. In the primary auxiliaries, we have something called be, do and have. Now what are these? Be verb is essentially like जैसे when we say in Hindi like मैं एक लड़का हूँ, that who is essentially the be verb, like I am. So be verb is essentially what? Be verb, we have am, is, are, was, were and being. These are the forms of be verbs. Now where do we use this? Be verbs can function as like helping verbs for some auxiliaries, or they can also be primary or like the main verb in sentences. Like in that sentence when we said honesty is the best policy, in this sentence what is the verb? The subject is honesty, we understood. What is the verb? Is the verb. There is no other main verb. The be verb is only the subject here. Sorry, the be verb is only the main verb here. So what is the rule associated with this be verb thing? The be verb thing rule is, if it's a first person singular like I, then we will use am. If it's a first person plural like we will use are. If it's a second person singular or plural, both you will take are. If it's a third person singular like he, she, it, or like some name also, like for instance Rama, we will not say Rama are a girl, Rama is a girl, right? So names. Third person singular is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4. These four, after leaving these four pronouns, like anything that you have is a third person, like any name whatever you have, that is a third person. So the third person singular will also take an is, and the third person plural will take an are. This is again like a very rudimentary thing, like we don't really need to learn this because we've been using English for so long. We essentially like this comes like naturally to us. But anyways, we start with the basics here and then move on to the other complicated stuff. The do verb and the has verb. Okay, so the do verb is essentially do, does, and for the past form it's did. Similarly, has verb has and have, and the past for it is had. So this is also simple. Does and has, that is used for singulars. Third person singular will use a does. Like Ram does his homework. Something. You know, Ram, third person singular, it takes a does. But the children do their homework. Right? Do, because the children is a plural thing. It's a plural subject, so do. Ram, on the other hand, is a singular subject referring to one person. That is why it's does. Similar for have and has. Third person subject will take a has and the rest will take a have. Like Ram has gone there. Similarly, the children have gone. There is no distinction in the past tense, although, like past may for both singular and plural we'll use did or had. This distinction is only for the present tense. Okay. Next, we have something called compound subjects. From here, things get a little bit interesting because the first three rules were essentially baby talk. From here, we understand what a compound subject is. Compound subject is when two things come together to become one thing. Like Tom and Jerry fight. Tom and Jerry, two things coming together to become one thing. That is called a compound subject. Like, what is this sentence about? Tom and Jerry fight. This sentence is about Tom and Jerry, right? It's not only about Tom, it's not only about Jerry, it's about Tom and Jerry. So that is why it becomes a plural, and so we use fight instead of fights. So here the rule we need to be wary of is that and or. If two things are joined by an and, it becomes a plural. If it's joined by an or, it becomes singular. Like either Tom or Jerry, like see, they're joined by an or, is responsible for the mess. It's not like Tom or Jerry has done this. You know, it's not Tom or Jerry have done this. Has done this. It might seem to be like a compound subject. It is a compound subject, but it is treated as singular because it is joined using or. When it is joined using and, it becomes a plural compound subject. When it's joined using an or, it is treated as a singular thing. So Tom or Jerry has done this. It's not have done that. There is, however, an exception to this rule. When two nouns represent a single idea, a singular verb is used. Like when we say bread and butter, we don't mean like bread and butter, like based on context. Okay, like see, bread and butter is my favorite breakfast. Bread and butter here refers to one dish, right? Bread butter ek saath mein laga ke you're putting it together and you're giving it. So that is a compound. It becomes a single unit. However, if I had written something like bread and butter sold separately, clearly we are stating कि bread and butter are two separate things, they are sold separately. So तभी we will treat it as plural. Bread, butter, alag alag, different things, they are sold separately. In that case, we'll use an R. Otherwise, when we say like bread and butter together, it means bread and butter like the dish. So in that case, we'll use it as a combined dish, right? So then it is a single idea, a single unit. However, when we treat them as two different things, like bread and butter are sold separately. It's not bread and butter is sold separately. Okay. Next rule we have for something called collective nouns. Now, what is a collective noun? A collective noun is essentially a noun that gives us a collection. Okay, like a fleet of ships, like a group of ships, right? Or like a herd of cow. Like these are referring to groups. So when they are referring to groups, we have to understand what the sentence is trying to imply. If the sentence is implying the group to be like one single unit, then we'll consider that to be singular. If the verb is used and the sentence is implying them to be individuals, then we'll consider them to be a plural thing. So collective nouns is not like very definitively, because it might seem like that, right? It's a collection of things, so it's like many things. It should be plural. It should not be plural in case where we are treating that entire unit as one particular thing. If we are treating the entire thing as one particular thing, then it will be considered to be singular, one unit, singular unit. Otherwise, it's plural. Like the jury reaches a verdict. The jury reaches a verdict. Like the jury together, all of them ek saath mein aake, they reached a particular verdict. So that is why the jury here is being treated as one unit. So we'll use reaches, not reach. Similarly, in the second sentence, see, the jury are debating. The jury are debating. So when the jury is debating, it's not like I am debating with myself. It's like the people in the jury, they are debating amongst themselves. So tabhi the jury is not one unit, rather it's like in a unit many people. So tabhi they are treated as individuals. So tabhi will use an are, tabhi will use a plural form of the verb, tabhi will not use a singular form. So this is purely based on the context of the sentence. Right, so like whatever the sentence is demanding, we have to essentially understand that and then identify if it is a single unit, if they are treating it as a single unit, or if they are treating it as randoms. Like the players were great, or the players, the team played well. The team plays well. When we say the team dash well, should it be play or plays? In order to play well, in order to have a good performance, all of them have to like work together and all of them has to perform good. So in that case, the team becomes a single unit. So it should be plays. However, if we are talking about something like the team was split on the team, they did not know what to do. Like different people had different opinions, something like that. In that case, we would have used play because we are not treating it as a single unit. Okay, rule 6, this is something called the indefinite pronouns. This is something from an exam point of view actually important, because a lot of the times people get confused in this. Like what is an indefinite pronoun essentially? An indefinite pronoun is essentially which is not definite. Okay, it might sound very intuitive, but the thing is, what is definite? Like when I say this boy, I am definitely telling you this particular boy, right? When I say someone, I don't know who that someone is. It might be a boy, it might be a girl, it might be, my pet dog. I don't know that. So when I say something like someone, or in this case, anybody, somebody, none, neither, both, few, anything of that sort. When I say that, we are not definite, like we are not telling it for sure, non-specific. Whenever we are non-specifics, we call them indefinite pronouns. So in case of indefinite pronouns, some of them are treated as singular, some of them are treated as plural, some of them are based on context. So we need to essentially remember which are treated as singular and which are treated as plural. Like when I say anybody, anyone, no one, somebody, someone, everybody, everyone, nothing, and nobody. These, whenever we see them, we'll know like this is a singular sentence. Like somebody is present in the office. Someone is present. It might be two people also. I am not sure. I don't know. It's an indefinite pronoun. How many people? I don't know. That is why it is always is. It's a singular thing. Plural, we'll use both, few, many. Like when I say both, I know that it's two of them, right? Like both of them went to the party. It's like two of them went there. A few of the people were present there. Some of them. It's not one, right? So many to is clearly many, many. So like we'll use them as plurals. Like few agree with this new policy. Few of them agree with this new policy. Few means what? There are some people. It might be two people or three people, very less people, but there is some, at least more than one. That is why few is a plural. Then there are some which are based on context, like all, any, more, most, some, none, neither, not, etc. Okay, like for instance, some of the milk is spoiled, some of the students are late. Some of the milk is uncountable. So whenever we have something uncountable, we treat it as a singular thing. Uncountable is always singular. That would include something like milk or something like, honesty, for instance. We can't count. It's like one honesty, two honesty. No, right? Uncountables are always singular. So milk is spoiled. Some of the milk, how much we can ask, but how many we can't ask. No, how many milk is spoiled, we can't. So that takes a singular verb. But when we say some of the students are late, some of the students, like there might be 10 students, of them 3 of them are late. If it were just one of them late, we would have said one of the students and that would have been is late, right? Because one is clearly one, some means more than one. So yeah, based on context, they are flexible. So again, based on the sentence, what the sentence demands, we need to approach this. Okay, rule 7, this is again very important from an exam point of view. It's either or and neither nor. So what do we do when we encounter a sentence with an either or a neither nor? For sentences using verb should agree with the noun or pronoun that comes just before it. Verb, the noun or the pronoun which is closest to the verb, it will agree to that. It's always the case. Okay, let's look at the example. Neither the manager nor the employees were available. Here, where is the verb, right? So we have the managers and the employees. Sorry, the manager and the employees. Which is closer to where? The employees is closer to where, right? Because the employees is closer to the verb, it becomes a plural because employees is plural. Secondly, if we had written neither the employees nor the manager, now in case of verb, the manager is closer to the verb. Manager is one person, the manager. So that is why the verb becomes singular. So neither nor ka, there is no definite ki like, okay, this will always be positive, this will always be singular or this will always be plural. It totally depends on which noun or pronoun is closest to the verb. The verb will agree to the noun or pronoun that is closest to the verb. Okay. Each and every, this is another one. Each and every are always singular. Wherever you find them, they are always singular. Verb must be singular even if the noun that follows is plural. Like each of the students has submitted. Each is always singular. Right? Like each student has been asked to provide. Okay. If every teacher, parent and students, like see, it might seem like a compound subject, right? Teacher, student, parent, at least 3 people though we have. But because we are using every, it is treated as a singular subject. So we use is instead of are. In the third sentence, see, each of the students has submitted their own form. Okay, so the students might be a bit off throwing, right? Like, okay, students they are saying, so it might be plural. But no, because we have each and every, they are always treated to be singulars. So this is like a definite rule, doesn't depend on context or anything. Whenever you see a sentence with each or every in the subject, you will know that okay, this is supposed to be a singular verb. The verb should be singular. Next, we have something called parenthetical elements between the subject and the verb. What is a parenthetical element? It means extra info that we give to, like, describe the subject a bit more. Like, the list of items is long. Okay, so what is the rule for this sentence? The subject is never the extra info, so we have to ignore it. In this sentence, the list of items is long. Essentially, what is the sentence? The sentence is the list is long, right? Of items is what? Of items is essentially telling us what the list is about. So of items, this is what we call the parenthetical element, the extra info. So the subject is never the extra info. Okay, so see here we can see that items is positive, items is a plural verb, but the subject or the verb is not this. This is not the subject. So the verb will not agree with items. The verb will agree with list. What is the sentence about? The sentence is about the list of items, is giving us more info about that particular list, right? So always ask what is the subject. जो subject है, what the subject is, the verb will agree with the subject only, not with the extra info or anything. See, the pages in the book are torn. What is the sentence about? The sentence is about the pages. Where are the pages? The pages are in the book. One book, fine. But what is the sentence about? What is the subject? The subject is the pages. Pages is a plural thing. So because pages is plural, we can say that we'll use are instead of is. Similarly, in the third sentence, see, the actor along with the photographers was present in the film promotion. What is the sentence about? The sentence is about the actor. The sentence is not about, the photographers. The actor is the subject. So the actor was present in the film promotion. That is why we use a was, we don't use a were. Okay. This is, some nouns can be a bit tricky. Some nouns are inherently plural. Okay, like they have an S in their name only. So what do we do for that? Like, words like news or physics, they have an S. So that might seem like, okay, physic, it might be a word. New, it is an independent word, right? But like new ka plural is not news, right? New means something which is new, brand new. And news is what? Information that we get. TV mein, mobile mein, news. So this is not the plural for this. So that is why this word, although it has an S, it's not a plural. Similar for physics, physic means body, and that is not the correct spelling also. For physique, it is PHYSIQUE. That means body. This doesn't mean anything as a singular. So news, physics, stuff like that, that is a singular subject. So the verb that follows is a singular verb. Like the news is boring, not the news are boring. Okay. On the other hand, when we have something like scissors or pants, they are considered to be plural. Scissors, pants, drawers as in like half pants that we call them, they are also called drawers, right? So all those words, they are inherently plural. So those will use are, like the scissors are sharp, not the scissors is sharp. So this is something which we need to know. There is no particular rule for it. It is more like in vocabulary you need to keep in mind, okay, these are the words, these are plural inherently, and these are plural, these are singular inherently. So keep that in mind while solving the questions like that. Next, we have something called the inverted sentences. So what is an inverted sentence? Inverted sentence is where the subject is not at the beginning. The subject might be somewhere in the middle. of the sentence, the subject can be somewhere at the end of the sentence. It is not necessary that the subject always has to be in the front. So that is why the thing is, whenever we are to find what is the subject of this sentence, we have to essentially question what is the sentence about. Who is this sentence about? Like in this sentence, let's see, here comes the train. What is the sentence? Is the sentence about here? It's not. It's about the train. So because it is about the train, so the train is the subject. And what is the subject? Is it plural or is it singular? The train is a singular subject. So because the train is a singular subject, the verb will take a singular form. Like here comes the train. It's not here come. We'll add an S because it's a third person singular. Similarly, here come the students. Because it's a plural subject, the students, so it will be here come, not here comes. So that has been written. Sentences will start with here, there, this, that, these, or those. These are usually the sentences which have this inverted structure. Like these are my notes. Take them. If I write this sentence, what is this sentence about? The sentence is about my notes, and my notes is the plural thing. That is why are, not is. Next rule we have for the abstract and the uncountable nouns. So what are abstract nouns? Abstract nouns are things which are not things, something which is not a material, something which is not a person. An abstract noun is something which is an idea, like honesty, like love, like discipline, all those things which are not things essentially, they are ideas. So those kind of words are called abstract nouns. And what are uncountable nouns? As we discussed sometime before, uncountable nouns are nouns which cannot be counted, like the data. Like in that sentence we saw the milk is spoiled. The milk is spoiled or spoiled based on if you are doing British English or American English, both are accepted here. So the milk is uncountable, right? The data is being processed. You might say like, okay, data can be like Excel sheets, like so many rows. Those are data points. Data points is countable. Data as a whole is uncountable. Furniture, for instance. Furniture is a uncountable noun. When we say pieces of furniture, that becomes a countable. Furniture itself is an uncountable. Uncountable noun which we cannot count. The furniture in the place is very nice. We are not telling ki which is nice. If the bed is nice, or like the sofa is nice, or like the dining table is nice, we are telling ki the furniture in the place is nice. Like as a whole, the entire thing, unit, right? So that is nice. But this piece of furniture is broken. One piece of furniture. These pieces of furniture are broken. Many pieces of furniture that are broken. So when we say pieces of furniture, it becomes countable. But when we say furniture as a whole, it is an uncountable thing. Similar for abstract noun like honesty, love, discipline, as I said, ideas. Those are abstract nouns. What we say about abstract nouns is something which cannot be seen or touched. If there is something which you cannot see or something which you cannot touch, that is called an abstract noun. Like smell of something, the fragrance. You cannot see it or touch it. So that becomes an abstract noun. So for abstract and uncountable nouns, they are always considered to be singular subjects. Always, in all cases. Okay, next we have something called quantifiers. Now what is a quantifier? A quantifier is essentially anything which gives us idea about quantity. Like all, some, a lot, like some milk. That was a quantifier. Lot of, lots of. So what happens? Verb agrees with the noun that comes after them. This is the rule, that for the quantifiers, whatever the verb will agree with is what comes after it. All of my dresses have become tight. Dresses, right? All of my dresses. You should not confuse it with, like, each and every, like each of the parents. Each of the parents is, but all of the parents are. So that is why you need to keep all of this in mind. Ki both of them are very similar structures, right? Each of the parent is guilty, or all of the parents are guilty. Each of the parents is guilty, let's say. Here we are treating, although both of the sentences are very identical structures, just one switch of the verb, one switch of a word like each and all, it becomes, once it is singular, another time it is plural. So all of my dresses have become tight. Dresses, and all of the food is left. Food is uncountable. And also, so it is a always singular. Exception, one of. One of is a quantifier which will always take a singular. It does not matter, one of my dresses. Okay, if I write one of my dresses, it still has become tight. Because we are clearly saying of all the dresses, one dress has become tight. On the other hand, if we had written like some of my dresses, it means, let's say I have these many dresses, some of them, not one, at least more than one. Some of my dresses have become tight. So that is the thing with quantifiers. You have to keep in mind verb के nearest एकदम सामने क्या आता है. If that is plural, you take it to be plural. If that is singular, you take it to be plural. Like some of the milk is spoiled. Right? It's an is. Milk, but some of the milk, that is an uncountable thing. Next we have subject refers to a period of time or something. In those cases also, we always use a singular verb. Like 200 kilometers is a long walk. 200 kilometers is, why? Because 200 kilometers, we are using it to describe the walk, right? And it's one unit. So subjects, when refers to a period of time, distance, or sum of money, it is always a singular verb. Like 5 years is a long time. 5 years, 5 particular years, you might think, okay, this is countable also. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. Then why is it singular? Because it refers to a period of time. Whenever it refers to a period of time, a unit of distance, or like a sum of money, tabhi it becomes singular. Because it's referring to essentially a unit, right? Whenever, in all these rules, you will see one unifying factor, that whenever we see that in the sentence, the subject is posed as a unit, ek saath, in all those cases, we'll use a singular verb. In other cases where the subject is not one unit, then we use it to be a plural verb. 5 years is a long time to wait. 5 years, one unit, like one particular period of time. Then 10,000 is more than I can afford right now. It's not are. Although like 10,000 will be very much like, okay, countable only, no, 10,000 rupees, but is, because it's a unit. Whenever we find something that in the sentence we read it and understand that, okay, this, they're talking about one unit of things, tabhi all the time we'll use a singular subject. Okay, there's something called the subjunctive mood. What does the subjunctive mood mean? Subjunctive mood is wishes, hypothetical situations, and formal requests. Wishes as in like wish. I wish I were a millionaire, or I wish I had gone there, something like that, I wish for this. That is a wish. A hypothetical situation is something which is not real. Hypothetical means something which is in our mind, not real. And formal requests is essentially requests only, like how you can request something to someone formally. Those sentences always use, they do not stick to like the proper rules. Okay, like I wish it were summer all year. I wish it was summer all year long, it should be right. Or like I wish I were a bird. In this sentence, it's very clear, like I is the subject, which is very clearly a singular subject. So I should always take was, right? It should be like am in case of plural, in case of present tense, was in case of past. It should always take was. But because this is like a wish and also a hypothetical situation, you can't possibly become a bird, right? A human cannot possibly become a bird. So in those cases, it does not stick to the normal rules. It becomes the ulta. It's always used as a plural. Like the school requires that each student submit their forms by Friday. देखो, this is a formal request. What happens in this is, although there is an each, and although I've said ki like anytime you see an each, it's a singular subject. But when it is a formal request, in that case, even for each, we'll consider it to be a plural. Like the school requires that each student submit the form by Friday. It's not submits the form. Okay. So in case of formal requests, hypothetical situations, and wishes, we'll use plurals. Why do we use plurals? They do not stick to the normal grammar rules. Okay. The normal grammar rule for subject-verb agreement is, like I said sometime before, if we can treat it as one unit, then it is a singular subject. If we cannot treat it as one unit, then it's a plural subject. In case of those things, these, there is no question of unit and all only. These are like, if you are someone who studied chemistry, you'll know something called exceptions, and there's a lot of them. So this is something which does not conform, does not fit in the normal grammar rules. These are like an exception. You need to keep them in mind. Wishes, hypothetical situations, and formal requests. Okay, so now we have a question on the subject verb agreement. We have to figure out what is the correct verb here. Okay, so here we have the sentence is all the teachers, all the students and the teachers. So this is very clearly a plural subject. It is using all. It's not using each and neither nor or something like that, which are like the tricky parts, right? It is using all the students and the teachers, all of them together. So it should be a plural verb. So it should be like. Liking is though grammatically only incorrect, and are likes is also grammatically incorrect. We'll discuss more about that when we discuss about tenses. But yeah, now based on like and likes, we can very clearly understand that it should be a plural subject. Because it is a plural subject, so the verb should also be plural. So like is the correct choice here. There's another question. It's similar. You have to identify the correct sentence. Like when we talk about sentence corrections, these are the kind of sentences you can expect, right? Because these are the kind of questions. They will not give you something like that to like fill in the blanks or something. This is more like it, where they ask you to like find out what is the correct sentence among the sentences. Garvit Kashyap, hello. I hope you are understanding like whatever we are trying to teach here. Option C. Yes, she doesn't like to get up early. This is correct. Option C should be the correct choice here. Let's understand why. She does not like or likes to get up early. So what happens here is we understand that the subject is she, right? And when I use a third person singular, we know for a fact we are supposed to use a singular verb which should have like an s, es or ies. But what is the verb here? The verb here is do not like, right? Do not like is the verb. So we are supposed to add an s or es to this. Instead of adding it do not likes, we write it to be does not like. That is just the construction. When we have like verbs like this, when we are using negatives or interrogatives, instead of adding the s, es or ies directly to the verb, if there is an auxiliary present, we'll add that to the auxiliary. In this sentence, do is the auxiliary for the main verb like. So whenever we have sentences like that where we have a main verb and an auxiliary verb, the s, es or is adds to the auxiliary. That happens in case of negative and interrogative sentences. Okay, let's move to the next question. So in this sentence, again, we are given one sentence. We have to identify which of the parts we have the errors. Okay, in this sentence, let's read the sentence. The economists were of the opinion that the government should give longer times to farmers to pay the loan instead of waiving the entire farm loan, as doing so is not good for credit culture. Okay, so one thing to is a hint, like because I've taken this in the subject verb agreement section, so there has to be one error with the subject verb thing. So first things first, the economist, one economist, singular subject, has to be was. So A is the error, we understand that. So the other options without A we can clearly reject. Now let's see B and C. The economist was of the opinion that the government should give longer times to farmers. Longer times is nonsense. Why? Because time is uncountable. Something which is uncountable, you cannot use words like longer and all that. So it can be a like longer amount of time. That can be a proper sequencing for the sentence, or like more time. Should give more time to farmers. A little more time. Something like that. It cannot, sorry, something like that. It cannot be like longer time. So B is also galat, we understand. So we have an option which says A and B only. So option A should be the correct choice. Yeah, Garvit, yeah, that's correct. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now that we've discussed, now that we've somewhat understood what the subject of agreement thing is, let's talk about tenses. Now, what is tense? Why do we need it? Why do we use it? We'll discuss all of it. So, what is tense? Tense is essentially a form of the verb which tells us the time of action. Tense is not time. Tense does not tell us time. Tense tells us when a particular action has taken place. It is a form of the verb. Looking at the verb in the sentence, we can essentially understand, okay, this particular action is happening now, or is it supposed to happen in the future, or it happened somewhere in the past and is still continuing. Whatever it is, for that we have the different kinds. So what are the types? So tenses can be a past, like something which has happened already. It can be present, something which is happening now, or it can be future, something which will happen. Again, these three of them can be divided into four different parts. They can be simple, it can be continuous, it can be perfect, or it can be perfect continuous. So, three types, four types. So, essentially past can have one of these four, present can be one of these four, future again can be one of these four. So, basic permutation is 3 times 4 or like 12. So, we have 12 types of tenses. We'll discuss about all of them in this video. Okay, let's get started with the discussion then. The present tense. The present tense is essentially what? Something that is happening right now. So now when I say tense is a form of the verb, what I mean is, like, whenever we look at the verb will have a different form for each of the sentences. The subject might be the same for all of them, but based on the verb, we can tell when that particular action has taken place. Like in case of simple present tense, the structure, this column is for the structure, like how the sentences look like, and this is like the usage, like when, in what case we use the sentences. So the simple present tense is used subject plus V1. S refers to the subject, V1 refers to the base form of the verb. What is V1, V2 and V3, right? Like जैसे go हो गया हमारा, V1 is the base form, V2 is the past form, and V3 is the participle form. Like जैसे we have go, in past it becomes went, and in participle it becomes gone. So that is like, you know, the forms of the verb. So for a simple present tense, the sentence is subject plus V1, like he goes or I go, right? When I say I go somewhere, obviously I go to the market, let's say. The verb is the base form of the verb, right? Like V1 is being used and we are using SES or IES along with it. When do we use this simple present tense? We use the simple present tense to show habit or routine, like something which we do every day. Like I go to the temple every day. So tabhi we use a simple tense. Like the priest goes to the temple every day. Present simple. Because that is a habitual action, that is a everyday action that the priest is doing every day. To denote a universal truth, whenever we have a universal truth, we'll use a present simple tense, like the sun rises in the east, or the earth is round. It's not like the earth was round and now it's become like a cylinder. It's not that, no. It's always round. It has always been round. So that is a universal truth, something which is always true. Those kind of things use a simple present tense to express commentary, author's view, or historical truth. Yeah. So like historical truth, like like when we say commentary, author's view, or historical truth, we mean something like, when you listen to cricket commentary only, for instance, if you listen to it in English, you'll see like, the ball was hit, he hits the ball, and it flies out of the stadium, something like that. So when they write that Virat Kohli hits the ball and it flies out of the stadium. So see, hits. It's like hit is the verb plus S, flies out of the stadium. Fly is the verb. We do flies. IES is added to it. Right. So, commentary or like something which is like, author's view. Like, I do not think so. Like, in a book, when you are reading an author's view or something, you'll see it's always written in a present simple tense. So those kind of sentence, those kind of places, we use the present simple tense. Next, we have something called the present continuous tense. Why do we use the continuous tense? We use continuous tense, as the name suggests, to show an action that is still continuing. Say continuing at present. Like I am teaching. I am teaching currently. So this is a continuous thing, right? Like I'm continuing to teach right now. So those kind of sentences use a present continuous tense. To indicate near future, like I am going to Bali next week. When I say something like that, I know that I am going in the future, but it's very near. Next week is like very near. But if I had said I am going to Bali next month, that is also subjective, but it would be better if you used I will be going to Bali next month, because that again, the near future action, that is also like a very relative thing. Based on context, you have to understand what is like very near future. Like if we talk about say half-life of carbon, which is like so many years, or if we talk about like the evolution of humans, that has taken so many years. So if that is the scale, millions and billions of years, then the 1 year is also near future only, na. So that is like the relative thing. However, present continuous tense is never used with stative verbs. Stative words like which tell the state of things, like I know her. It can never be I am knowing her. No will never be continuous. In no world, we can make no continuous, because knowing something is a state. It's not an action. Similarly, we have belong, like I belong here, or like this book belongs to me, right? This book is belonging to me is not correct. So that is the thing. For present continuous tense, the structure is subject plus am is are plus v1 plus ing. The first form of the verb, and we'll use an ing, like I am going. Okay, for the next present perfect tense, the structure is subject plus have has plus v3. Have, as we know, like have will be in case of I, and like plurals, otherwise we'll use has. Like subject I have, v3 is go, went, gone. So I have gone. That is like a present perfect tense. And when do we use a present perfect tense? We use to show a just completed action. It's like an action which started somewhere in the past, but right now I just completed. Like I have finished writing this sentence. I just now finished writing this sentence. So that is a perfect tense. A present perfect is used there. And for a perfect continuous, the structure is subject plus have has plus been plus v1 plus ing. So like I have been, V1 for go is go only. I have been going. Right. So that is like the present perfect continuous. When do we use it? To denote an action that began in the past and continues in the present. Like in case of present perfect tense, it's like abhi khatam kiya. It just finished right now. Present perfect continuous tense is something which I started and it's still going on. Like I have been teaching this class for the last 1 hour. Like from the last 1 hour, I'm still continuing to teach this class. So that is the present tense. Let's move on to the past tense. Again, in the past tense, we have the simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. The structure is subject plus V2 for simple past. It's like I went. When is it used? To denote past actions or habits or show two past actions. Past actions or habits, like I went to school. I went to school in when I was in school, I used to go to school every day. So that is a past habitual action. It's not right now, right? It happened in the past. So tabhi those sentences we use a simple past, sorry. And two actions like I went to her place and she made me cookies. Two things happened in the past only. Like I went to her place and she made me cookies. So both of them happened in the past only. So those kind of statements, those kind of situations, we'll use the simple past. Then we have something called the past continuous. Subject plus was where plus V1 plus ing. It's not V2 plus ing. Please keep that in mind. The past is coming from was and where. It's not coming from V2. Like I was going. That is the structure. When do we use it? To denote actions in progress in the past. Like I was going to the market. Like I was going in the past. When I'm talking to a friend, for instance, I'll say like, I was going to the market, tabhi, something like that. And then there's something called one action taking place in the middle of another action. When we have something like this, one action taking place in the middle of another action, like suppose I was studying when she entered, right? So I was studying when she entered the room. What's happening here? So I was studying and she entered the room, right? Two things. I was studying is one action. She entered the room is another action. This was continuing. This was continuing to happen. And this is like an interruption taking place in the middle of. So when we have a sentence which implies an idea like that, the continuing action which is going on, that will always take a past continuous, and the action which is interrupting, that will take a past simple, always. This is like a structure which we need to keep in mind, that whenever we have one action taking place in the middle of another action, जो middle में हो रहा है, something which is happening in the middle, something which is interrupting the action, that will always be in past simple, and the other action which was going on, that will always be in past continuous. Next we have something called the past perfect tense. The construction is subject plus had plus V3. I had gone. V3, go, went, gone. Had will be used. When do we use past perfect tense? To denote two past actions. Earlier one uses past perfect, the later one uses simple past. Again, similar to this, something like that. Two actions happening in the past only. We have something more past and something less past. The more past will always take a perfect. The less past will take a past simple. What do I mean when I say more past, less past? Let's look at a sentence, okay? The train had left before we arrived at the station. In this sentence, we understand that we also arrived at the station, that is also happening in the past. The train also left the station, that is also happening in the past. Both the actions are happening in the past only. So which happened earlier? The train left pehle na, so that becomes more past. More past, if we like draw a timeline, for instance, if this is the present, I reached, before that only the train left. So what the action that has happened in more past, that will always be a past perfect, and the one which is not the more past, this is the less past, that will be a past simple. Now how do we differentiate between like this case and this case, right? Because in both the cases, both the actions are happening in the past. Someone might argue ki I was studying when she entered the room. In that case also, like, studying was continuing to happen, but the thing is, the train left and we arrived. Did anyone interrupt anything? Was there any, like, something happening in the middle of something else? That was not there, no. Two actions happened in the past, finished in the past, not related at all. Those kind of sentences will use this, more past, less past. Two actions, one happening in the middle of another action, that will use this construct. So that is where we know that we are supposed to use continuous, where we are supposed to use perfect. Okay, next we have the past perfect continuous tense. For the past perfect continuous tense, she had been, subject had been V1 plus ing. So I had been going. This is like an example for the past perfect continuous. When do we use the past perfect continuous? To show a past action that has continued for some time, another point in the past. In case of present continuous, what was it? In case of present continuous, present perfect continuous, sorry. In case of present perfect continuous, it was something which started in the past, finished right now, or like is still continuing abhi tak. That was present perfect or present perfect continuous. In case of past perfect or past perfect continuous, something happened in the past, finished also in the past only. Continuous is when something we are telling ki it happened for like a duration of time. Train leaving, it just left like that. So that is why it's just perfect. But if there was something like I had been studying, like for some time in the past I studied, like I had been preparing for JEE back in 2010. So not 2010, 2020. So back in that time, so I prepared for JEE, finished also, na? Then I got my degree and everything, and it happened. So something which started in the past, ended in the past also, but continued for some time in the past. Those kind of sentences we use past perfect continuous tense. Okay, let's move to the last category, which is future tense. Future tense we do not use as much in, like, the day-to-day things. Like you won't find a lot of future tense sentences, but for a grammar point of view, from like a sentence correction point of view, this becomes important. So simple future subject plus shall will plus V1. Like I shall go. Shall is used with I or you for a singular. Rest everything use will. Everything else. We'll discuss more about this when we talk about, like, auxiliaries and model auxiliaries. There are rules, like sometimes they'll get interchanged also based on context. So anyways, like I shall go. When do we use simple present? To denote future action. Like I shall go to the market. Like I will go to the market in the future, something like that. Or to denote determination, threat, or order. Like if you do not do this for me, I will kill you. Right? Like I am using simple future. कि like I am threatening you, do this, otherwise I'll kill you. So for a determination act or like a threat, something like that, also we use simple future. Next we have the future continuous, denote an action that will be in progress at a given time in the future. I will be going. I will be going to the market. Like sometime in the future I will go there. Or like I will be doing my homework after this. Something like that. Okay, like in the future I'll do my homework. That will take me some time. But that is in the future, not current, not in the past. Future perfect tense, shall, subject plus shall will plus have plus V3. I will have gone, or I shall have gone. I shall have gone. Here also shall is a better choice. I shall have gone. This is a future perfect tense. When do we use it? To denote an action that will be completed before another future time. I shall have gone before you come. I shall be gone before you come. Right? Matlab I will have left already. Before you come here, I will be gone already. Something like that. Ki like before this action happens, the other action would have been finished only. But both the actions are in the future only. And for the future perfect continuous tense, subject plus shall will plus have plus been plus V1 plus ing. Like I shall have been going. Like see, so clunky all of these. Like why will you use something like this, in a day-to-day speaking, to denote an action continuing up to a certain point in the future. Like if we draw a timeline, the action started in the future, continued for some time in the future, and then again ended also in the future only. Nothing is happening in the present. Obviously, nothing is happening in the past. Everything is happening in the future. Those kind of sentences we use future perfect and future perfect continuous. Okay. What is important here to know is what the structure is, so that just based on the structure we can say like, okay, this is wrong. Many a times that happens. Like they'll use something like shall be go or something like that. So like okay, like none of them have like this. It has to be an IING or like a V3, something like that. So if you know the structures, that helps. Secondly, if you know where to use a particular sentence, that also helps. Like not in case of future though, more in case of like present and past, because a lot of sentences you have to like identify. The sentence might seem grammatically correct, although logically speaking this is not the correct tense that should be used here, the other thing should be used. So that is why we do that. Like for the present and the past we should know like when to use what. Okay, let's move to the next. This is like the final information thing which we have to discuss today. It's called the conditionals. What is a conditional? A conditional is any sentence that starts with an if. Like if this happens, then this will happen. If condition, like if you are from like a computer science background, you know what a conditional is. So like if this happens, then I'll do this. If she dies, then I'll do something, like whatever it is. So if essentially is the conditional. So there are 5 types of conditionals. Each of them has a different use in different times. There is something called type 0. When do we use the type 0? When we use a general cause and effect relationship. Like if you heat water, it boils. The structure is if plus present simple and again present simple. Like what does this mean? Like if you heat water, this is a sentence which is in a present simple tense. It boils. This is another clause which is also in the present tense, present simple, both of them. Again, about clauses and phrases, if you are not very familiar with the terms, go check out the previous video where I've discussed it in detail. What a clause is, what a phrase is, what a conditional is, everything is discussed there again. So yeah, so in type 0, like something which is a general cause and effect relationship, tabhi both the clauses will be in present simple. Okay, like if you study you will pass, if you study you pass, or like if you are absent you fail. That is like a general cause and effect, right? Studying, if you study you might not pass, that is a different thing. But if you are absent from the exam, for sure you are failing, right? That's a very general cause and effect relationship, something like that. If plus present simple, and the other clause is also present simple. Next we have something called the type 1. The type 1 conditional, or the conditional type 1, whatever you call it, the structure goes if plus present simple, will plus v1. When do we use it? Expresses a possible future result of a real condition. Like if something is happening now, then a possible future result for that particular thing, in those kind of situations we will use the type 1. Like if you study you will pass, like it is a very possible outcome that if you study now then you will pass. See, if it rains I will stay at home. Like if it rains, see, if plus present simple, it rains is a present simple, and I will go out, will stay at home. Stay is the, right, stay is the v1. So this is not a very particular tense, but like will plus v1, that is the construct that you need to remember. Similarly, we have the type 2. The type 2 construct is if plus simple, and would plus v1 is the for the main clause. Why do we use it? Expresses an imaginary or contrary to fact situation. Like something which is not true, something which will not happen, something which is in my head, something which I am imagining. Those kind of situations we'll use a type 2. Like if I were rich, I would travel the world. See, I were rich is a past simple sentence, right? And would travel, would plus v1. Travel, traveled, right? I would travel the world. So this is a imaginary situation. I am not rich. If I were rich, then I would have traveled. Then I would travel the world. Type 3, if plus past perfect, would have plus v3. When do we use it? Expresses imagined past or outcome that never occurred. In the past, what happens in type 2 is I am imagining something for the future. Type 3 mein I am imagining something in the past which could have been different, right? Like if I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. Like in the past, if I studied more, then I could have cleared the exam, right? In those kind of situations, like in the past we have the past outcome that never really occurred, like I did not pass. So that kind of sentences we use a type 3. The construction is important, if plus past perfect and would have plus v3. And finally we have something called the mixed conditional. It goes if plus past perfect and would have plus v1, would plus v1. When do we use it? Connects an unreal past with its impact in the present. Something which did not happen in the past only, unreal, that you are connecting to something in the present. That if I had studied medicine, I would be a doctor now. I would be a doctor now is something in the present now, right? They are telling you if I had studied medicine, that did not happen only. I did not study medicine. I did not become a doctor. So those kind of sentences use mixed conditional. The names not so important, the structure and the use very important. To understand where we use what kind of conditional, why we use, why this sentence demands for this particular structure, that is because you need to keep in mind the structure and the uses for the conditionals. Okay, let's move on to the questions now. So this is a simple question where you need to figure out which sentence is what. Okay. So in this question, let's look at the sentences. I shall speak, I shall have spoken, I shall have been speaking, and I shall be speaking. I shall speak is what? Subject plus shall plus V1. This we know is a future simple. So A should be future simple is a simple future tense. A should be 2. Let's look at the options. Okay, so only one of them has A2. So without actually solving the rest, only we can say कि option C is the correct choice here. Let's look at the other sentences also just for clarification. I shall have spoken. In this sentence, it is subject plus shall plus have spoken, which is V3. So this is what? This is very clearly a future perfect tense. Similarly, I shall have been speaking. Been plus V1 plus ing, that gives us a perfect continuous. Been plus ing, whenever you see, that is a continuous tense. So this is a future perfect continuous. And I shall be speaking. Speaking. I shall be speaking. Subject plus shall plus be plus V1 plus ing. This is future continuous. So anyways, we can like just verify that this is only the correct choice here. So option C is the correct choice. Let's move on. Okay. So in this sentence, we are essentially trying to identify what should be the correct replacement for the portion that has been underlined. Okay. Let's look at the question. Justin could not understand why his friend had refused to work in a company that offered him a huge salary. If it had been him in his friend's place, he would definitely accept such an offer. Okay, so here what it is happening, that if it had been him in his friend's place, this is unreal past, right? Something which did not happen in the past. So in cases like this, we'll use the mixed conditional, right? The sentence should be uh, if it had been him in his friend's place, he would have definitely accepted such an offer. So of the options, have definitely have, okay, this is wrong, you can't have this two halves. Have definitely accept to will not work only. It was always V3 with have and all, it's always V3. Definitely accepted, this is simple past, this is again wrong. Option B is the correct choice. Have definitely accepted such an offer, because this is something called the mixed conditional. Okay, let's move to the next question. Okay, so in this sentence, I had been having a headache, so I will not attend the meeting. Okay, so what is happening here? I have started having a headache in the past. The headache is still continuing to this point. Because something that started in the past and is still continuing, what we will use here? Here we will use a perfect tense. Something which started in the past but is continuing till the present. So it is a present perfect tense. So I had been having is not correct. I have a headache. शुरू हुआ था past में, it's still having. I have a headache, so I will not attend the meeting. So option C should be a correct choice here. Let's move to the next question. Okay, so in each of the following sentences, the incorrect part of the sentence is underlined. Choose the alternative. Okay, so if I had known that you needed to go to the airport yesterday, I would have driven you there, right? If I had known in the past that, let's look at the table again. See, expressed imagined past outcomes that never occurred. So if I had known that you were traveling, then I would have taken you. So this becomes what? Imagined past. So it becomes a conditional type 3. So if I had known, I would have driven you there. So the correct choice should be option C here. Let's move to the next question. Okay, so again we have to like identify which is the correct tense for this. When Dr. Sapra came to the hospital in 1995, Dr. Anand had already been teaching there since 5 years. Okay, so the sentence is technically the tense is correct. When Dr. Sapra came in 1995, Dr. Anand already teaching there, started in the past, still continuing, had already been. This is also acceptable. The issue there is since 5 years. So whenever we are using perfect tense, we have the since and we have the for. Since is used when we have a definite amount. For is used when the time is indefinite. What do I mean by definite and indefinite? Definite means very specific amount of time. Like if it had been like Dr. Anand had been teaching there since 5 years. Which 5 years? We don't know which 5 years. It's an indefinite time. 5 years is fine. 5 years is what? Like Dr. Sapra, when she came, from then 5 years, or what is it? So because it is indefinite, that is why we'll use a for here. If it were like since last 5 years, if it were last 5 years, we would have understood that, okay, Dr. Sapra came in 1995. Then Dr. Anand was teaching there for the last 5 years, which is 1990 se leke. That would have been a definite time. Here, when we say when Dr. Sapra came to the hospital, that is also in the past only. Now, that is not something like now is what? We don't know. So, because that is also happening in the past, and this thing was like more past to that, Dr. Sapra, it might have been that when Dr. Sapra came, Dr. Anand taught for some 5 years and then he's not in the college also anymore. Or like he died, we don't know that. So, whatever the time frame is, it is indefinite. And every time in case of indefinite time frames, we'll use for. If it would have been definite if it were like, say last 5 years, then we know that from 1995, 5 years from there. That is a definite time. But only 5 years is not definite. So had been already teaching there for 5 years, this should be the correct choice. Option B is the correct choice here. Okay. So in this question, in my opinion, the psychological thrillers of Alfred Hitchcock, who is a master of suspense and horror, have more lasting impact than any other filmmaker in history. Okay, this is a case of subject-verb agreement. See, the sentence is about what? The psychological thrillers of Alfred Hitchcock, right? The subject here is psychological thrillers. Who is a master of suspense and horror? This entire thing is what? Additional information, extra information. Ignore it. What is the sentence about? The psychological thrillers. The sentence is not about Alfred Hitchcock. The sentence is about psychological thrillers. Alfred Hitchcock also ignore. The subject is what? The psychological thrillers. This is a plural subject. And whenever we have a plural subject, we'll use a plural verb, right? But the issue here is, when we are talking about the psychological thrillers of Alfred Hitchcock, we are not referring to one thriller like that. We are referring to the entire psychological thriller thing as a whole. So whenever we have the idea that something is as a whole, it never is treated as a plural. It is always treated as a singular. So the psychological thrillers of Alfred Hitchcock is one unit, one thing. So that is why the verb should be singular. It should not be plural. It should be a singular verb. So the correct sentence should be: the psychological thrillers of Alfred Hitchcock, who is a master of suspense and horror, has more lasting effect, or have had a more lasting than any other filmmaker in the history. Why? Two things you have to consider. One, though, it was the subject of agreement thing. The second thing is the tense. The psychological thrillers in history, in past, so it cannot be have more lasting effect, because have, although it might seem to be a perfect tense, it is not perfect. Have more lasting impact is not a perfect tense. Have is the verb here. Have had more lasting impact, that is perfect. So the correct choice should be have had a more lasting impact than any other filmmaker. Have had. Option D should be the correct choice here. Okay, so in this question, choose the option which best replaces. Okay, in a few minutes time, when the clock strikes 6, I would be waiting here for an hour. So in this question, what is being implied in the sentence? So like in a few minutes time, like sometime in the future, when the clock will strike 6, from then I would have been waiting here. Like total me, I would have been waiting here for like an hour. So this, let's look at the future thing. See, denote an action continuing up to a certain point in the future. In this sentence, waiting started, but waiting is continuing up to some point in the future. So because it is something like that, which is continuing up to a point in the future, we can say that it has to be a future perfect continuous. So I, and I also uses shall, not will. So in a few minutes time, I shall have been waiting. So option B should be the correct choice here. Okay, let's look at the sentences. Who had replaced? Okay, so what happened here is that this one player was injured, and so she was replaced by someone else. Again, replacing is a stative verb here. It's not something which is like telling us like an action. It's more of a state, like I was replaced by this. So continuous is not correct here. See, we can root it out. Who had replaced the player after she was injured? Who replaced the player after she were injured? Okay, so she is a present, she is a singular. So it will never take where, it has to be was. When we have where when it is an hypothetical situation. The thing happened in the past, some player actually replaced her because she was injured. So this is not something which is hypothetical. So where is a wrong use here. So we can reject option B also. Who had replaced the player after she was injured, and who replaced the player after she was injured. Now here you see in both the sentences what was more past. She was injured, after that someone replaced her. If I write had replaced the player after she was injured, it was like that happened before. That is not the case now. So injury came first and then the replacement occurred. It was not like replacement happened first and then injury happened. So if I write had replaced, it would mean like the player was replaced before, only before she was injured, because that is the nature of perfect, right? Perfect is always more past. So we cannot do that. So we can rule this out also because it is illogical. So option D should be the correct choice here. Who replaced the player after she was injured? Option D is the correct choice here. The last question for the day. Also, just an announcement, guys. We, if you do check out our WhatsApp group, we also have like curated 5 high quality mocks which are absolutely free, as is this course for the IIMB UG thing. The entire thing by Cracku, we are doing it for free. So go check out the mocks, check out the course, check out the other videos. We have videos in Quants and like LRDI. The last class was on puzzles, which was very interesting. So please go check it out. Yeah, and if you want to practice more questions as such, go attempt the mocks. They are like very good questions. You'll get an idea as to like what you can expect from the exam as such. Okay, let's finish this. Let's solve this question. He is very careless and has loosed his keys all the time. Okay, so first thing first, lost, lose ka past is lost, and it's not loosed. So that is so anyways wrong. Second thing, he is very careless and he does this with his keys all the time. When we write something like all the time, it refers to something like a habitual action. Like something which happens on a regular basis. On a regular basis, this person, this he, keeps losing his keys. So that is why this has to be, whenever we see a habitual action, it has to be a present simple tense. So is losing is not present simple, that is present continuous. Has, loses, though doesn't make sense only. This is grammatically wrong only, no construction here. Was, losing his keys is past continuous, again rejected. Loses his keys, this is correct. Option D is correct. Option D is present simple. So option D should be the correct choice. Okay, so I guess there's that. If you have any more doubts, you can like reach out to us on the comments. We'll make sure to like reply to all the doubts. And yeah, I hope you had a good learning experience here.